The World Bank says 5 million Nigerians have been pushed into poverty as a result of inflation in 2022. In the report titled Nigeria's Choice, the bank said the country's inflation has worsened since 2020, eroding the purchasing power of Nigerians and increasing poverty. It has also reduced Nigeria's 2022 growth forecast to 3.1% from a previous forecast of 3.8%. This, the bank explained, is due to Nigeria's slow economic growth amid decline in oil output and reduced non-oil activity. Well, for more insight, Johnson Chukwu, the CEO, Kari Asset Management Limited, joins me now. Thank you very much for joining me. Now, due to the country's slow economic growth, the World Bank has reduced Nigeria's 2022 growth forecast to 3.1% from a previous forecast of 3.8%. Now, do you see a further decline on the grounds of Nigeria's economic situation?
Yeah, thank you for having me. Yeah, there's a possibility that our growth will actually decline below the 3.1% as currently projected by the World Bank. If you consider the fact that our third quarter GDP grew at only 3.225%, when as compared to about 3.4% it grew in the second quarter of this year. Those are symptoms that we're witnessing a declining GDP growth rate. And some of those factors that led to a slowdown in the GDP growth rate are still manifest. We saw the manufacturing sector contract in the third quarter of this year. We also know that given the challenges that the agricultural sector had in the third quarter of this year, you may see a slower agricultural growth rate. And agriculture currently accounts for almost a third of the GDP, about 29% of the GDP. So if there is slowdown in agricultural sector growth, there's a slowdown in manufacturing sector growth, the oil and gas sector is still in negative unless it rebounds. Then you could possibly see a further slowdown in the GDP growth rate. Of course, some of us have talked about this repeatedly when we say that by adopting severe, strong contractionary monetary policies, where the central bank has continued to increase lending rates, that you may find out that some sectors of the economy may be impacted negatively, added to other factors that are even beyond financial access to credit, issue of insecurity in most parts of the country, which is hobbling agricultural production as well as affecting crude oil production. These factors will clearly possibly push the economy to a slower GDP growth rate at the end of the year.
Other recommendations. Now, the World Bank has also advised Nigeria to increase non-oil revenues by raising value-added tax. Now, do you agree with this?
You recall that the government recently raised the value-added tax from 2.5% to 5%, which was a 100% increase. The challenge we have is that the government is not able to meet its part of the social contract. So further increase of taxes, particularly even the value-added tax they are referring to, remember it's consumption tax. And today, one of the challenges we have is that the consumer power is weak. Consumer purchasing power is weak as a result of the inflation rate. Today, we're talking an inflation rate of about 21.47%, up from about 21.09%. So if you are seeing a consistent erosion in consumer purchasing power, at the same time, you want to impose additional tax burden on them in terms of consumption tax, you will further weaken consumer purchasing power. And the implication of that demand will decline. If demand declines, production will decline. If production declines, GDP will contract. So this is these things are all related. You don't look at it from one perspective. Ideally, if you have a strong consumer demand, then you will say, let's increase taxes so that you can attract more revenue for the government. But if you have a weak consumer demand, increasing taxes may work against the overall macroeconomic growth and development.
All right, now, Johnson Chukwu, the CEO, Kari Asset Management Limited, thank you very much for your time and your contribution.